Hello friends, how you doing? It's your friend Phil here, project management trainer and coach. I hope you're doing great. I got an email a few days ago from a very good colleague, someone I consider a friend. And this friend and colleague is actually a student of mine from 8 years ago. So I have known this student, now a friend, a colleague, for going to 8 years. But in the email, it made me quite sad to read that this particular candidate, this once upon a time a PMP exam candidate, now certified, a professional, smart, and has got what it takes, has been looking for work for quite a long time. So I thought the best way to tackle this will be to create a series of ideas, which I'll put into these videos and share with this friend of mine who for the past 8 years has been a great ally and someone who I could count on. Now, it didn't start off like this. This individual was able to find work way back, didn't have any problems. But round about the past 9 months, about 9 months ago, this individual started finding trouble going to interviews, knocking on doors, going for interviews, taking the interview, seems okay, sending follow-up emails and things such as that, going as far as creating a PowerPoint deck, to say thank you and underscore main points, but still has not been able to secure any opportunities. So there's no cookie cutter method for applying for a job, because jobs differ and the people interviewing you differ. There's no silver bullet. However, there are some ideas that may be helpful, that may be useful, and those are the ideas that I'm going to be sharing today. My passion to talk about this topic actually came from going without a job for 9 months, twice in my career as a project manager. I found myself scrambling for anything possible. And I found out that I wasn't hitting the mark in a lot of interviews. And the reasons have been very different. There have been interviews I went for. I didn't think I would come out as the top candidate, but I did. So along the way, over a period of time, I began to collect these ideas of, what did I do well? What didn't I do so well? What made the hiring manager go for my resume? What made the hiring manager confident enough that I could do it? And these are some of the ideas I'm going to be sharing with you today. But right off the bat, I want you to know that if you are looking for a job, do not lose hope. It is very important that you keep your expectations and your hope levels up. However you do this, it could be by looking for allies, people that can add positive value, that can give you a positive mental attitude to stay the course as you're looking for work. Because trust me, if you go in for a job and you're already deflated and you're like, oh, let me go through the motions, just another one of these, they will know. They'll sense it from your body language. They'll sense it from the energy you exude. So it's very important that you do not lose hope. Find allies, find people that can add some positive mental attitude to you. And this could be from colleagues from a previous job. It could be from people that believe in you. There are people who believe that you can do it, that you can bring it, that you're going to ace the next interview. Those are the people that you need to be listening to. So if you don't have these allies, people that can add this positive mental attitude and affirmation, I want to encourage you to look for them. Now, if you are a project manager and you belong to a body such as the PMI or some other body of project managers, I want to encourage you to interact with those individuals, because not only will you be energized hearing about their successes, they will also add value to you in the information shared in these meetings. So If you're a project manager and you're looking for employment, very important, stay connected to your local PMI chapter. You can also find job opportunities from individuals right there in the chapter. I know of individuals who have found opportunities by being right there in the PMI chapter. So this is all very important. In addition to this, I will also encourage you that if you do not have someone in your corner that is a headhunter, a recruiter looking for you, because trust me, these folks, they've got systems, processes, ways that they do this. Now everything's all automated. So they are going to be a whole lot more efficient than many people can be. And that's why one of my first tips to anyone looking for a job is get a recruiter, get a headhunter, get an ally from that world on your side that can look for jobs and opportunities relentlessly for you. 24/7, they've got their ears to the ground and they can find opportunities that may suit you. If you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong. Don't do it alone. Find an expert that can do this for you. Of course, they're going to get some benefits, a percentage of whatever your salary ends up being, or they might get a fixed fee payment for finding you, but you do want to engage these folks. You do want to engage them, okay? So I'll come back to a few of my, random thoughts and, ad hoc tips, but let's jump into this PowerPoint deck that I have here, and I'll share with you some of my ideas that will help people that are seeking these job opportunities. All right, so you might wonder, who's this guy? Well, my name's Phil. I've been a project manager for over 18 years. I've worked in lots of spaces across project management. I've worked in IT, as you can see on the screen, aerospace, engineering, healthcare, multimedia, various organizations. I have also been the trainer to well-known government entities, including NASA, the FBI, the U.S. Army, the Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Air Force, Department of Transport, Department of Commerce, so many of these government entities and organizations that you know. And I have lots of project management certifications, as you can see. So I have been around the block quite a few times. Like I said, my passion to teach this stems from being a project manager without work for 9 months, twice. Now, the company that I'm affiliated with is called Praizion Media. We've trained all sorts of entities worldwide, as you can see on the screen. So, as you see on this first slide, it says, no job yet. In other words, you don't have a job yet? Well, what do you need to do? Stay engaged. I want to encourage you, if you don't have a job right now, the right thing to do is to stay engaged. And how do you stay engaged? One, do not allow for downtime. Downtime needs to be a no-no for you. If you are searching for a job and you're like, oh, I don't have a job, I'm just going to stay at home, you're doing the wrong thing. Don't do that. Don't just stay at home, whether you feel down and out or not. You need to be engaged and moving, so no downtime. There are a variety of things you can do right off the bat. If you're looking for work, first of all, you want to volunteer, as you can see from this second bullet. You want to volunteer. You want to volunteer your efforts, volunteer your time, volunteer your energy. Why? Because it keeps you in that zone of hope. It keeps you in that zone of motion. It keeps you in that zone of being determined and being focused, having a near time goal and having a long time goal at the same time. You might say, but Phil, where am I going to volunteer? Well, my suggestion would be a variety of things. Whatever keeps you moving and in motion with as low cost as possible, do it. First of all, if you are a project manager associated with a PMI, you can always volunteer for your local chapter. And there are a lot of things you could do. You could become one of their trainers, one of their ambassadors for whatever it is, one arm of the PMI's chapter or the other. You can also find yourself engaged in the meetings, just the organization of the monthly meetings, the onboarding of new PMI members, and things such as that. It will keep you in the zone of hope, and it will keep you in momentum. It will keep that momentum going for you instead of just being home and just looking for jobs all around the clock. It will also give you a nice distraction from that, because, the law of diminishing returns kicks in. And that's why I say allies are important. So while you've got people looking for work for you, the recruiter, the hirer, hiring executives that know how this stuff works across various firms, you are keeping energized and in the zone by being a volunteer. You could also volunteer for nonprofit organizations that do things such as feeding the hungry, clothing people that have no clothes or find it difficult. Your local Salvation Army is also a very good place to start. It's a way of giving back. No one is saying that's going to be where you stop, but it's a way of giving back. And I have lots of friends. I know lots of people who are employed, but they keep volunteering because it keeps hope alive for others. And what goes around comes around, right? So whether you're doing a nonprofit, whether you're feeding the hungry at a soup kitchen, or whether you're involved in some greater cause for others, I would say keep that going. All right. Next, additional courses or certificates. There are lots of opportunities to gain knowledge at low cost. It just takes knowing where to look. Now, if you are a PMI member, right off the bat, the PMI's affiliated site, projectmanagement.com, it will allow you to attend webinars if you are a member. And that's why I tell people, become a member of the PMI, because you never know when you'll need it. If you don't have a job, there are a plethora of webinars that are held regularly that will not only give you PDUs, but will give you a lot of smarts regarding project management, scheduling, risk management, agile, and stuff like that. So if you haven't joined the PMI as a member, now would be a good time to do that, because in times where you're looking for jobs, the projectmanagement.com site can be extremely valuable, even when you are employed. It's still a great site to have access to. I have gained so many PDUs and knowledge by being on those webinars, and those webinars are held all across the year. So you definitely want to tap into that. There are other additional courses and certifications you can look into. It might be at your local community college or elsewhere online. But think about that. Think about tapping in to the value of that. I've been a lifelong learner. I continue to be. One of the portals I've subscribed to, to get additional knowledge is Masterclass. I have a year subscription. Now, when Herbie Hancock put out his piano jazz tutorial on Masterclass, I was one of the first people to go through it. And if you're keen enough, you'll actually see one of my reviews regarding the course. So I was one of the first to come on board. I'm always trying to learn. I'm learning a ton of things from different people. And I would recommend, if you are experiencing any downtime, Masterclass may be a good place for you to begin to get additional knowledge. Maybe even outside of project management, but just relating to some additional skills that you have. It keeps hope alive, it keeps you in the zone, and it keeps that momentum going. So however you can go for additional courses or certificate, do that. The next thing is become a teacher of what you know, okay? Teach what you know. A lot of people, they're without jobs, but they are so intelligent and smart, just like this friend of mine. This friend of mine is so gifted in many areas. And I wonder, why not start teaching what you know? What you know about psychology, what you know about project management, how you've seen project management being applied to the healthcare industry or to engineering. Your own unique niche of project management. How about sharing that in an organic, non-PMBOK, non-threatening way? Because The PMBOK guide is a big book, right? The project management body of knowledge guide is a big book. Now, maybe you're not in project management, you're in a different discipline, you might be in HR, you might be a car mechanic, whatever you are, find a way of passing across information and knowledge. It's going to keep you on your A game such that when you get into an interview, all that stuff you know, it's going to be right there at your fingertips. So my encouragement to train goes beyond just helping people. It's also helping yourself. So begin to add value to people. Whatever it is there is no rule about sharing it. There are so many available opportunities. Social media for one, Facebook, right? Mr. Zuckerberg hasn't said you cannot teach on this platform if you don't have 3 PhDs. No. You can go on your Facebook right now and speak to the world. You'll be helping others and you'll be helping yourself. So I want to encourage you, share what you know, whatever your field of study, whatever your field of interest. Maybe you're a nurse. It's how to be an RN. There are a lot of people, tons of people trying to become nurses. Wouldn't it help if you shared your story, So share your story. And last but not least, I just say write a blog. At a minimum, write a blog. Just start a blog. There was a colleague of mine right here in the office a few years ago that came to me and said, Phil, I don't even know what to do. I don't know where to start. And I'm like, why don't you start a blog and begin to encourage people? So she started a blog, and the blog became extremely successful, affected many people and given many people hope. And it was more like a family-oriented blog, with her kids and her family and what was going on. But it really went far and wide, and began to establish her on the map. Now she's almost an Instagram superstar of sorts. So you never know where the beginnings, these humble beginnings, are going to take you. So I want to encourage you, go through these top things. Don't allow for downtime. Volunteer. Additional courses or certificates are always good. Teach what you know. And write a blog. Okay, so if you are not engaged in a job, maybe you are, these could be valuable pointers for you. I call this different strokes for different folks. Why? Because conditions differ from job to job. There is no one size fits all. And this is something I want you to be aware of. If you've been looking for a job for a long time and you're getting into discouragement mode, just know there's no one size fits all. You've got to use everything you've got to get the position. And that includes intuition. Some people say, oh, it's spooky, Phil. There's no such thing as intuition. Even Jack Welch of GE, he talks about going with your gut. Because going with your gut is priceless, and it could save you your life in many instances. There's no spooky science to it. We're human, but there's also dimensions that are beyond the human dimension, believe it or not. So if you have this great deep feeling in you to proceed along a particular route in the interview process, if you don't do it, you're losing out on the power of intuition. So think about your gut, and when you feel that feeling to say something, to do something, do it. Because interviews are different. Job situations are different. I was amazed at an opportunity I had in a well-known Fortune 500 company. If I mention the name of this firm, you would know it right off the bat. It belongs to one of the richest people in the world. And I was applying for an opportunity in this firm. I had sent in all of the basic information that was asked for. And a couple of weeks went by and I didn't get any response, which is normal, right, in a job interview. But at a point, I felt, Phil, send this package again. So I sent the package again. Lo and behold, the interviewer said, we hadn't seen this. If you hadn't sent this, we wouldn't have even known that you existed. Thank you for sending it. And I thanked the interviewer and I promised some follow-up information. Anyway, I sent the follow-up information. It was when the follow-up information was received, it obliterated the competition. They immediately said, this is the guy we want. This is the person. Now, if I hadn't gone with my gut to resend that information, I wouldn't be here telling you the story that I've worked in a company for one of the richest people in the world. It wouldn't have been a story, but now it is. You see, so go with that gut instinct. And I'm starting this off to let you know that jobs differ, okay? Employees differ. What you used in job X and you blew out the competition may not work for job Y. So anyone using a cookie cutter method or formula with an intent to succeed is doing it wrong. You need to have open lines of communication channels sending you messages telling you what to do. And that includes your intuition, your gut. So go with your gut, folks. Don't underestimate the power of the gut. When you do all of these great things that I'm telling you, depending on the situation, also remember that there is a responsibility that you have to do what you feel right there in your gut. It really could help. You feel like you should mention some experience, you should do something, do it. Another interview that I went for, not many miles away from where I am right now. In fact, probably 1 or 2 minutes walk away. I went for this interview and I felt in my gut, Phil, go with your copy of the Project Management Audio Digest. Now, the Project Management Audio Digest is an 18 CD set of audio instruction. And I had this feeling in my gut to go with the Audio Digest series. So I went in and I had interviewed with a couple of managers and I was on to my third manager. And as we were speaking, the topic of product development came up and developing products and marketing products and the entrepreneurial mindset. Of course, it was easy for me to whip out the audio digest and immediately begin to talk about it because I came prepared based on my gut instincts. So all of this to say, as you can see on the screen here, conditions differ from job to job. There's no one size fits all. With the previous managers, that wasn't relevant, but with that manager, what I had come prepared with, it fell right into place. You know, long story short, I got the job and it was one of the best jobs that I'd ever done. You know, the corner office and the whole 9 yards, you know, that felt really good. But jokes apart, it was all because I came prepared based on my gut. So as you go into job interviews, just remember, some jobs require little interviewing, very little interviewing, and other jobs require a lot more. Some jobs are very task or skills oriented. It's all about, can you do the job? End of story. Thank you. Talk to you next week type of thing. Some jobs are managed by what I would call detail-oriented bosses. Now, this is not a slight on people who are detailed-oriented. I'm just saying that detailed-oriented bosses are probably going to go further along in an interview. They might take you out for a 3-mile run, proverbially speaking, as opposed to a manager that will take you for a 100-meter sprint. So it really depends on who you're interviewing with as well. Keep that in mind. Read nonverbal cues, read body language. When an interviewer is tired of listening or has been satisfied with what you're trying to say, it will come across very quickly. When someone has had enough, it just takes a few nonverbals to give you that cue that you're going on for too long. So watch those nonverbal cues, you know. Watch for fidgeting, watch for facial expressions, watch for repeated leg, hand, body movement. Seriously, you know, it will be very clear when that person's had enough. So know where you are. You know, you might have gone in there trying to do a 1-page breakdown of your experience, but if you get to half a page and you realize that it's beginning to take effect, and that you've hit the mark with half a page, then keep it to that. Some managers are desperate to hire. They are in body mode. And what do I mean by body mode? By body mode, I mean they just want to fill it with anyone. Anyone who has a pulse is going to be able to fill that job because they are really seriously desperate. I've actually been for such job interviews. Few minutes and boom, you get the job, and you're like, my goodness, is that all? The reason is they're in body mode. They just want to fill that position. And sometimes we are fortunate to be there, right place, right time, So just watch out for those cues. Some firms are by nature detailed in their interviewing approach, and some other firms, they're not so detailed. Some firms have like a 2 or 3 step. Even if they find you to be the one they're looking for, they're going to go through all of the steps. The next tip I have is to study the opportunity. So this friend of mine who went into this job was very keen on letting me know, I did everything I could. I brought my A game. I sent emails and so on. But right off the bat, I would say study the opportunity. Studying the opportunity is really going to make you very powerful, because you're going to study all that you need to know about the job and the firm. And when you're going in there, you already have that opportunity. You already know so much about the firm, so much about the job, that your questions and your conduct, it just becomes like you've been there, done that, when you know a lot about it. So first step here in studying the opportunity is, what is the opportunity in question? Try to identify what that is and ask yourself, am I really interested in this? Am I best suited for this or not? Some people are going for jobs that they're not very well suited for. For me, I would go for a project management role or program manager role. There's some roles I may not go for, And the question is, do you have what it takes to do the job? You might have what it takes, but you might not be interested, and that will come across. Or you might be interested and not have what it takes. But if you are interested and you have what it takes, that is the beginning of a good recipe. And such opportunities, I pursue them extremely, extremely vigorously. The next thing is you want to tailor your resume. Okay, so different jobs require a different resume approach. Some jobs you might be required to send in a 2-page, a 3-pager, even a 5-pager wouldn't be bad on some jobs. But some jobs, the moment you go beyond 2 pages, it's like, why? In fact, you want to follow the rule that your hiring ally gives you advice on. One of my hiring allies said, Phil, I love your 5-page resume, but it's too long. We need to shorten this thing to 2 pages. So I started crossing out stuff and Xing out stuff. And then I began studying the opportunity. I'm like, what they need is relevant to only about half of my resume. So I just whittled it down. I aggressively slashed a lot of the information that was not in line with the opportunity, and I got it down to 2 pages. And I've used this approach time and time again. Now, there have been some jobs I've left it at 4 pages, and I did get the job because these folks needed a lot of detail. They wanted to go through a ton of projects that I had done. But that is not always the case. So you need to be smart when you do this, all right? You need to spend quality time planning out, what are we going to represent here and how? And like I said, your ally can help you. You want to ask, what are the top skills needed? Those are the skills you want to accentuate on the resume. What are the key tools needed? You want to accentuate those. If you're looking for a scheduler, well, you want to accentuate scheduling. If you're looking for someone who is a manager of people, well, those are the skills you want to accentuate. What do you have in your gig bag that is close to what is needed? I've seen this become so helpful time and time again. There are opportunities that I've ended up winning where I did not have exactly what they were looking for, but I had something that was close or related to it. For instance, I talk about this on a previous call. There was a job that I went for, and they were looking for someone with heavy test script and heavy use case writing abilities. And I didn't have that, but I had something that was close. I had been into web design and I was CIW certified, and I decided to upplay that, and it came into play in the resume and in the interview. After going through the resume, well, I see you don't have this and this. I see you've got this. Tell me about how much of this you have and what you know. And at the end of the day, that was part of what helped me, and I've used this in different interviews to go beyond what do we want versus what do you have? Is there any correlation? I talked about how I went to the interview and they were talking about product development. On which products have you ever developed a product? Well, I had one right there. So it wasn't the product that the company specialized in, but it was something that was close enough because it had the hallmarks of what that company was involved in the production process. So if you don't have exactly what they're looking for, look for something that is close, that you can at least use to bridge that gap, and look for some form of common ground. Next point is have variations in your resume lengths. Like I said, it could be 5-pager for one job, a 2-pager for one job, a 3-pager for another. Just make sure you've got those variations and use them, appropriately. So now I'm going to give you 10 key tips for your next interview. And this friend of mine, I don't know if this friend of mine is watching at the moment, but when you do watch, I hope you find these useful. Okay? Before I hop onto these 10 points, I just saw a chat come in from one of our users here. And Jamia says, hey there, I have experience with leading my own projects, but want to work as a PM at a company. I'm a young woman and it's hard to break into the industry when men don't take us seriously. Will the PMP license help me with marketability and credibility? And I'll tell you right off the bat, I'll just tell you my story, Jamia, and thank you for sending this in, Jamia. Jamia, my experience as a project manager was thinking I knew about project management. I had managed projects at a well-known bank, in the UK. So I thought I knew a thing or two. And a few years, fast forward, I found myself in an interview in front of interviewers at a well-known shipping company. The yellow and the red, you know who they are. Found myself in this interview, and honestly, I couldn't bring it. It was a disaster. It was a failure. You know why, Jamia? It was a failure because I was not properly equipped. And of course, I very quickly lost respect and any credibility that they saw, because they obviously saw, oh, this person has a master's degree and has studied project management in his master's. Little did they know I was clueless about the PMI, clueless about Prince 2, and when it came to Microsoft Project, my knowledge was very limited because I was used to doing things, just doing them without knowing what they were called. So when they began calling out specific things in the world of the PMI, the world of Prince 2, the world of Microsoft Project, by name, talking about things like resource loading, things that I knew, but I didn't know what they called them in the professional world. So I learned my lesson, Jamia, that in order to bring it in certain interviews, you need to go equipped. You need to go armed to the teeth. I was in another company, well-known airlines company, and the questions were coming directly like a cutout from the PMBOK guide, from the Project Management Body of Knowledge guide. If I did not come prepared, it would have been curtains. It would have just been, a bloodbath. Seriously, it would have been like the interview with that shipping company. But in this particular instance, I came knowing my stuff, and I'll just say that it is unfortunate, that there are people who are ignorant in many firms interviewing people, and they have no regard, for people. But that is not the case in every firm, and I'm sorry to hear that you experienced, that wherever you've interviewed at. But these days, people know it's not about gender. It's about what you've got up here and what you can do. So companies where they have that approach, you don't even want to work for companies like that. You don't even want to be there. I remember listening to one of Jack Welch's CDs where he was talking about a particular lady who went for an interview, and the culture in the firm, it was just a turnoff, to be honest. And at the end of the day, even though she was awarded the job, she decided, I don't want to be part of this firm because their culture does not fit the person I want to be. It does not match with what I want to be. I don't want to be in some old boys club. I want to be in a place where I can grow and thrive. And as a result of that, she turned down their offer and went elsewhere. And I want you to know that going into an interview, you want to go in confidence. You want to go knowing that they are not doing you a favor, right? They're not doing you a favor. You're doing them a favor. You got to believe in what you have. If you choose to stay in a place and you've got substance and you've got what it takes, you need to go in with that mindset, that attitude. I'm doing you a favor being here. I could have been elsewhere. I could be in other firms. That needs to be your mindset. I'm not telling you to say that, but that needs to be your mindset. Know your net worth. Know what you're worth in terms of you being there. And I'm not talking about know your net worth money-wise. I'm talking about know your net worth in terms of value that you can bring to the firm. You can bring a ton of value. You can save a ton of money. I speak to project managers all over the world, and I am amazed at how many of them are bringing tremendous monetary value, but making pittance compared to what value they're bringing. In cases like that, those companies need to be extremely grateful that those people stayed on. Okay, so Jamia, my steps, for success, getting certified is definitely going to put your resume higher up on the stack, Jamia, because it's become extremely competitive in the world. In the world today, we have so many people that are getting certified in different things. Even if they're not PMP certified, there are a plethora of organizations that offer project management certification. So having the gold standard in quote, at least that's how a lot of employees look at it, having that is definitely going to put you higher up on the rung of success. So hiring manager looking through a bunch of resumes, of course, there has to be some source selection criteria. They're going to end up selecting those that have not just the experience, but also the certifications. It's the face of the world we live in. A lot of government entities, when they're bringing on people to work as contractors, or they're hiring a vendor, a lot of times you see PMP preferred. It's amazing. Even in the United Kingdom, I was taking a look at the job boards, and I do this regularly, and I couldn't believe how much a certified project manager could make. I'm like, where was I back in those days? Or where were these jobs back in those days when I lived there? Because the amounts are, compared to what I was doing then, they are just like night and day. Project managers who are in the right place at the right time, bringing their A game to the interview, can earn a ton of money, a boatload of money. And like I said, know your worth as you're going in, okay? So don't feel like they're doing you a favor. Feel that you're bringing something to the table that should make them listen up. Now, having a PMP, Jamia, is not a measure of how someone respects you and how much credibility they will give when you speak to you, But one thing I can tell you is it's definitely the beginning of putting your resume higher up on the stack. I often say having a great resume and a certification gets you into the door. Now, staying in the door is all about how you're able to sell yourself like there's no tomorrow. You got a great resume. Can you sell what's on there? Can you convince someone that what is on there is credible? When you're asked questions, does your body language suggest credibility? Does it paint the picture? Does it give that portrayal that you can bring your A game every single day and you want to bring your A game and you can add value to them and you can take that organization in that place that you're placed, you can take the organization to places where they've never been. This was a case when I interviewed at a particular company. Resume was good and all that, but it came down to the question, can you do this? And without saying that, the question was, walk us through how you would implement an earned value management system. But I sold them like there was no tomorrow. It went beyond having a PM. This was not, oh, I've got a PMP, so I know about earned value. No. This was, I have the PMP, but I can bring it and I can add value and I can bring passion. I can bring energy. I can bring determination to get whatever you need done, And it takes confidence in yourself to be able to do that. So Jamia, my suggestion to you, to break through this is to get good, not just in project management, not just in becoming PMP certified, but you got to be able to sell yourself in such a way that if people are listening, they immediately know that person knows what he or she's talking about. They immediately know, yep, she's got it. She can bring it. I trust her judgment, So that would be my advice to you. If you've got any further questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and I will continue answering them. But thank you very much. That is a very good question indeed. Because a lot of PMs, they think, oh, I've got the PMP and that is the end. No, that's not the end. That's the beginning. That's going to get you in the door. What will keep you in the door, what will keep you staying there in the building on the next go round is your ability to sell yourself like there's no tomorrow. Okay? So here are my 10 tips for your next interview. Let's take a look at these really quickly. So 1, live in their world. What do I mean by live in the world of these people? Well, if you're going for an interview, it is extremely important that you stay in the world of the people that invited you for the interview. Your answers, your demeanor, your approach should map directly back to the organization that you're interviewing at. You should be able to live in their world such that you're speaking about things that truly matter to them. You're speaking about topics that are going to add value to you as a candidate being in there, because it's going to marry directly back to what they are interested in. People who talk about stuff that the interviewer has no business knowing about, they are not living in the world of the interviewer. You want to live in the world of the company that you're interviewing for. Next thing I would say is your words. Words are powerful, but in addition to words, you also want to think about tone of voice. Tone of voice can be even more powerful. Words are great. Tone of voice is very powerful. That didn't sound very powerful, did it? Tone of voice is extremely powerful. It is. Tone of voice accounts for 38% of the message. Words are just 7%. And guess what? Body language accounts for 55%. So if you're going for an interview, no one wants someone who is dishwater dull, deadpan serious, unable to emote, unable to bring it. Now, some organizations may not be all that gung-ho and, energy conscious, but a lot of firms are, a lot of people are. No one wants an employee that will suck the life out of them. They want people who are energy bringers, energy givers, people who are engaging, people who are interested, people who can bring a smile at the right time to the conversation. So you got to look and you got to mirror whoever is interviewing you. Mirroring is very important. If someone is having a bad day and you can tell the interviewer is having a bad and rough day, you also want to be mindful of that. But if your interviewer is like a bomb of energy and you come in there dishwater dull, you probably ain't going to bring it. You have to mirror, you have to bring the right amount of energy. You have to bring an equal, at least, amount of energy to the table, equal amount of intensity to the conversation. If the person interviewing you is looking directly into your eyes and you're busy looking away at the ground and up, it's not going to cut it. So mirroring is very important when it comes to interviewing. So words, tone of voice, body language, bear in mind, the body language, it goes a long way. Sitting upright, being like you are in an interview that really matters to you is very important. So you want to take note of these things. Words, tone of voice, body language, let them all align. In order to do this well, though, you might want to practice a few times in front of a mirror. Practice speaking to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror, talk to yourself, go through the rituals, and become a very good presenter of your resume. That's what you need to do. Become a great presenter of your resume. Bring the right energy. You want to bring the right energy to the table. Like I said, no one wants someone that would suck the very life out of them and the organization. The sixth tip is common ground. So to do this effectively, not only do you have to be very attentive to listen out when the interviewer is introducing themselves, but you also want to do your research. Social media is one of the best things that you could use to your advantage, because guess what? The interviewer is using social media to their advantage. And that's why I tell people, be careful what you put on social media. Those comments you put out, those political inclinations that people are able to read, it should not bias someone interviewing you, right? But in all honesty, such inclinations could bias a very unprofessional person. So why don't you want to take that off the table by being careful on social media? Be careful about what you portray. Be careful about what you portray on sites like Facebook, like Twitter, things that make you look like a far left or right wing person. Be very careful about those. Cussing at people, abusing people, telling people you wish they were dead, Be careful, because a lot of these things are beginning to show up in the interview conversations, right? Inclinations, probably going at people of a particular religious sect and things such as that. They could come back to bite you. So be careful. Okay, with that out of the way, you can find some common ground if you do your research on things like LinkedIn or other social media. Now, understanding the background of the person interviewing you, what they really do in their job, not their job title, because job title is always all well and good, but what they've done in the past, these are things that could help you find common ground to accentuate in an interview within reason. Because the people interviewing you, guess what? They're doing their research as well. And things that they find that may be incriminating, that may make you look like a fanatic of sorts, you want to be careful about things like that. But to your advantage, common ground can work. Finding that commonality academically, finding that common ground professionally, places they've worked, things they've done, these things, they can help. And I speak from experience, these things do help, they really do. So connect on common ground, okay? And be careful on social media. That should be a point of its own. Next thing is keep it simple, sir. Keep keep it simple. Keep it as simple as you possibly can. Bear in mind that the people interviewing you for the rocket scientist job may not all be rocket scientists. For that reason, you need to meet people where they are, depending on the interview. Because when you go in for an interview, you've got different people you interview with. And the reason why many teams introduce a lot of team members is for everyone in their own world of influence to get a feel for this person. Can this person interact with accounting? Can this person interact with their subordinates? And things such as that. So be careful, when it comes to making things very technical. You don't want to make it too technical if you're not with a technical person. If you're with someone who is not necessarily the head rocket scientist, you want to make it as simple as possible, just to give the person enough information to know you understand your field, but definitely not to give them a lecture on physics or something. My 8th point here is experience. So experience is very important. Jamia asked a very good question earlier, talking about experience on your personal projects. And my advice to anyone is, if you've got experience that relates to the job, why wouldn't you use it? Why wouldn't you talk about it? Because it's going to keep you in the door. Things that you've done that you can liken to your present day job aspiration, you definitely want to use that. Okay. The next thing is inspire. Okay. You want to inspire whoever is interviewing you. And this is very important. You may not think you could inspire who you are interviewing with, but I want you to know that you absolutely can. About 9 years ago, was it 9 years ago? 8 years ago, 9 years ago, thereabouts, I went for an interview right here in this town, and I thought I did really well. But I got an email back to say, thank you for interviewing. While you were a good candidate, we don't think this is a great fit. Forgot about it, moved on, applied for another job. In applying for this other job, little did I know that I had been set up by that manager that I had interviewed with previously. That manager set me up with a colleague of his to say, I interviewed this guy. Great guy, not 100% great fit for what we want in this department, but I think you should interview him. This is another clue, something else you can learn about working with headhunters. The headhunter I was working with told me, oh, such and such wants to interview you again. Now, little did I know that it was because of that manager that the company wanted to interview me again. The department that I was going to interview with was not the department that I interviewed with weeks back, so I hadn't made the mental connection. It was months later, after being in that position, which, by the way, was a great one, where I started getting inspired to look more into risk management. But anyway, months later, after getting into this position, I heard back from this person that I had interviewed with and said, hey, Phil, I'm really excited you came on board. I told my colleague all about you, and that's why you got the interview. Amazing. So apparently I had inspired this individual. To the point that I was recommended to his colleague. Ended up working in that position. It was great, and moved on, and still know this individual up till today. And this individual keeps telling me about what an inspiration I am. So you never know when you've hit the mark in an interview, and it could come back to pay huge dividend. If I was to tell you the whole story, it might be a little bit boring, but long story short, I ended up doing lots of consulting work beyond that company for a company that this individual ended up being in after the whole experience, after working in this powerhouse of an organization, and we all went our different ways. He finding himself somewhere else and bringing Phil in to help again, So you never know when you've hit the mark. You never know. And that's why I encourage people, don't just go in and interview, just for interviewing's sake. Go in to inspire. Go in to, hey, watch this. Go in to create an experience. Let the person who interviewed you know that they had just been through a phenomenal experience with an outstanding person. But that takes a lot of confidence and practice. So while I give you lots of tips about interviews and so on, I've been through a lot of hard knocks throughout my interviewing process. I've been to interviews where I was never even called back. I've been to interviews where I was down to my last few thousands of dollars. Hey, down to the last mortgage payment. I'm telling you, I've been through a lot of things. In fact, I write about this in a book called Getting Rich in Project Management. But anyway, let's get back to our points here. Let's round this up so that I can let you go on your merry way to volunteer or do something else. So let's look at point number 10 here. Point number 10 is follow up. Follow up, extremely important. I told you the story about how I had this gut instinct to follow up, and I'm glad I did. But as a rule, you do want to follow up, folks. You do, Now, on the flip side, I went for an interview here north of the Valley, Scottsdale area. It was a great interview. I found the person who interviewed me to be rather hilarious, rather interesting character. And I really did enjoy the interview. After the interview, one day went by. A second day went by. I wasn't called. I'm like, I don't know what happened. Maybe they're not interested. I failed to follow up with a personal email. Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting into another position, which ended up being a phenomenal role and position, by the way. But a few days into that position, I then got the email, Phil, we want to go with you. It was too late. I'd gone with the other firm. Now, that's not to say that I would or wouldn't have gone with this firm. I don't know. But what I took away was, Phil, you did not follow up. If you had followed up more proactively, perhaps you would have known ahead of time or earlier than you eventually did that they were going on to a next step. So as a rule, follow up. And this friend of mine, was very quick to tell me, I've been following up, I've been sending in, sending PowerPoint, sending emails, so on and so forth. So I would say keep that up. Keep following up. Don't stop, but I just say follow up within the parameters that you see fit. Not everyone is going to appreciate a PowerPoint, to be honest. Some people will, some people won't. Some people might see that as being outstanding, and other people might see that as being something else, So again, it's all about that gut instinct, and don't make things cookie cutter, but just go with what you feel in your gut at that particular time. I'm a big believer in that. Jack Welch is a big believer in that as well. John C. Maxwell, my mentor, is also a big believer of that, and actually has a law, the law of intuition, which is all about that. But anyway, that's for a different day. All right, so those are my 10 key tips for your next interview. Now, when you walk into that building, into that room, when you are communicating with the person you are interviewing with, there are 3 very important questions that you need to answer. You need to be thinking about these questions in your head. You need to be saying, I know you're not asking this, but I know that this is in your mind. You need to be saying that. And these are the 3 questions. The first question is, do you care about this department or this firm? This is a question that every person that goes to any interview should answer. Convince me that you care about this firm. Convince me that you care about this department. I went into a company to train a few months ago, and I had done all my homework about the firm. It really blew my socks off what they had done community wise. And I immediately bought in to this firm with a passion. I knew what they were about. I knew what they were trying to do. And I told them, hey, you have an ally in me. I will always do whatever I can to be there to help you, no matter the case, to help propel you forward in your quest, to add value to your community. Now, it's a very community-oriented organization, non-profit organization, and what they're doing in the area of health, phenomenal. But I had bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And I told them this, and they actually took me up on my challenge and said, Phil, we need help in this. Can you help us? And I did, without a fee, because I had bought into the firm and I truly believed in what they were doing. Now, if you cannot do that, if you cannot find something to connect you to the firm that you're applying for a position with, find something, because it's going to make the experience even more real and true. You know, other organizations that I've applied to, it started off with wanting a job in that firm. 2, my goodness, look at what they're doing for the government. Look at what they're doing for the country. Then it changes. Then it begins to make more meaning. You can see the lives that it's impacting. And then you're able to better answer the question. Convince me that you care about this company, or convince me that you care about this department. You know, and this takes doing a lot of homework. It takes, you know, being a student of the firm, so to speak. I remember being employed in a well-known Fortune 500 here in the Valley. And the very first week I went into that firm, I was in a meeting. I began to speak about certain things. And after the meeting, majority of the folks in the room, by the way, they were my boss's peers, and my boss brought me in to say, hey, here's, you know, the person who's going to be helping us in this field. But the way I spoke commanded such respect because I knew all about the firm. I'd done my homework. I'd done my research. I knew the key players. I knew the structure, and I knew what made the organization tick. And watch this. Immediately I got in there, I began to build allies, to find allies. So by week 2, I was well off to the races by week 2. So I was bringing it and slaying it. And I found it quite interesting that one of the directors said, how long have you been in the firm, Phil? How long have you been here? He couldn't believe when I said less than 2 weeks. You know, these are the hallmarks of someone who goes into a firm with an intent to add value, you know, with an intent to bring stuff that you have to better the organization. So the question, do you care about the department or firm? I cannot overstate. If you can convince or portray that concern, you're hitting the mark. The second question is, can you help us? Everyone going for an interview needs to imagine that the interviewer is asking that question. Okay, tell us how you can help us. Can you help us? Obviously, you think you can. That's why you're here. Tell us how you can help us, you see. So as you're interviewing, you also want to have that at the back of your mind. Convince or convey the ability to help the firm that you're going for the job in. No one wants dead weight, folks. Let's be honest. No one wants a lump of weight that is not going to bring value, you know. At least let it be someone who is bringing a measure of value that can take us, even if it's 1.5 or even 0.01 level above, whatever it is, but at least let this person be able to move, you know, the meter in such a way that we are getting something from that person. So as you're in that interview, folks, can you help us, and how? You definitely want to be able to answer that. Thirdly, can we trust you, and why? Now, there are all sorts of traps that people lay without knowing. Maybe they're not doing it in a malicious manner. They're not doing it to trap you, but in interviews, people who cannot be trusted, they often reveal themselves. And unfortunately, inexperienced interviewees may give some nonverbal cues or suggestions that they cannot be trusted. And the way to prevent that is from a lot of preparation. If you prepare yourself sufficiently well, you'll be able to exude confidence and you'll be able to pass across the message that you are indeed a trustworthy person, you see. And those are things you want to convey in an interview. You want people to know, okay, Phil can be trusted. He's not dubious. And why can we trust you? You also want to underscore maybe situations, circumstances under which your previous employments had that trust factor. You know, your previous boss could trust you, or your previous colleagues could trust you, and things such as that. There are a few helpful links that I would like to share with you here, and these are links that I have collected over the years, different tips and tricks. The first one is something called job motivation. So I'm going to bring that up here just so you can get an idea for what I have out there that could help you beyond this webinar. So I call this Job Seekers Motivation, and it's of course a website that you need to go to, and I'll just share this right now. So this is my Reverb Nation page. I have dedicated a section to job seeker motivation, people looking for jobs. I was there. I've been there looking for a job for 9 months, twice. So I'm very passionate about this. But if you go to the link, job motivation, tinyurl.com/job motivation, you'll be able to listen to a lot of these audio clips about how to break into project management. Jamia, if you're still on the call, this one, breaking into project management, would be helpful to you, I believe. This one, titled Next Level Project Management, would also be helpful. And there are a number of other clips that I've put here over the years just to share ideas. There's Job Seekers Motivation, how to be a project manager leader, how do you make a 6-figure salary, planning out your week, PM career interview, and where is your career headed. All of these are freely available. So if you go to that link that I just shared, the tinyurl.com/job motivation, don't go there now because I'll end up losing you. So please don't go there right now. But after the call, you can check that out. Okay. The next link here, it is tinyurl.com/10 pro tips. So like I said, over the years, I've been compiling different ideas about how people can improve in their careers, you know, across the board. Professional success cuts across industries. And this is titled 10 Steps to Professional Success. It's available on iTunes. It's going for $9.99. So it is an affordable piece of information, but it will help people. And for those who may not be looking for a job, maybe you've got a high schooler, you know, someone who is out of high school, or someone who is out of college. I want to advocate, send them a copy of this because it will begin to give them ideas and motivation for their job search. Out of high school, out of college, it will help. And also for those who are seeking employment, you know, around about this time, I believe this curriculum will also help people. It's not an extremely long curriculum, and it's audio. It's easy to listen to. The next link here is tinyurl.com/getting rich in PM. So this is a book I wrote following lots of heartache looking for jobs, not being able to find jobs, and then boom, getting, you know, perfect opportunities, and then going without a job, and then getting perfect opportunity again, and eventually deciding to focus fully on lots of entrepreneurial ventures. I wrote that book, Getting Rich in Project Management. So tinyurl.com/getting rich in PM. And if you go on from the link I just showed to this link, takes you to Amazon, and that's the book. It's called Getting Rich in Project Management, and it's helped PMs be able to strategize about the interview process and so on. The last link here is Praizion.com. That is our website. So if you are a project manager, you are looking to take a professional project management exam, this is a link that will take you to where we've got lots of information, about project management, and it will also give you the ability to sign up for our project management training, our project management curriculums. And you can get that by going to Praizion.com. So I'll just show you here. If you go to the website of Praizion.com, you'll be able to sign up for basic project management training, training that will give you at least the PM 101. If you go to training, those of you that want to sign up for, maybe the PMP exam training, it's this one right here. If you click on that, it will take you to a link where you can sign up for that, where you can get some more information about the course. And in here, for those people who are looking at taking the exam, we've got lots of other curriculums that could help. We also have audio, 20 hours of audio, called the Project Management Audio Digest. And this will help people who are getting ready for the exam, or people who just want to casually listen to stuff about project management and get informed and get equipped to be better in their project management. Okay? So I hope that helps, and I hope that gives you some inkling, at least some starting points for people who, may be without a job at this time and are wondering, okay, what am I going to do next? I hope this gives some insights, and also to my friend. Now before I go, I'm going to share with you some key sample warm-ups, and I'm going to be talking about what these warm-ups really mean. Different interviews, they ask different questions, right? You could be asked different questions in different interviews. So when you get these questions, it's very important that you approach the questions in a way that you don't feel threatened, and you know that they're looking for something from you. They're either looking for problem-solving ability, or they're looking for confidence, or they're looking for honesty, even in how you answer the questions. They're looking to see if you can think on your feet. They're looking to see if you are sincere and honest. Your body language, it exudes a lot. Remember the 38, the 55, and the 7. Professor Emeritus Albert Mehrabian did this experiment at UCLA. Those were his findings. In your interview, where you are sitting right there face to face, be aware body language is giving off a ton of information. Body language is telling them more than your words. Tone of voice is also telling a lot more. If your hands are shaking, you might want to be careful about putting those in view of the interviewer. Why are Phil's hands shaking? Is he lying? What's going on? You want to be very careful about your body language and what your body language is telling. So anyway, these sample warm-ups, these are warm-up questions that I think may be of value to my friend and other folks who are looking for that job. So you enter a building with 3 doors. One is glass, one is wood, and the other is granite. Which one would you choose? And then when you tell the interviewer which one you would choose, you may be asked why. Now, this type of question is not for anything scientific or spooky. It's just to see if you can think on your feet and your problem-solving abilities and how you follow through with an idea and why you follow through in a particular way. But there are interviews where I have been asked really outrageous questions similar to this without going into the details. All right. But the reason why you're asked these questions, just bear in mind, is they are trying to test how well you think. Now, the particular interview I went into, and it had something very similar about walking in and finding these items on the floor, and they're this color and that color, and which one would you choose and why? And I ended up answering the question to the best of my ability. Long story short, I did get that job. It was that same job, that same manager where I told you I took in a product I had developed. It was that interview. So my ability to rationalize and follow through obviously hit the right mark somewhere. What did you like about your last job? Again, this is seeking for truth and trying to find out anything possible. You know, in an interview, everything is fair game, nothing is off limits. Bear in mind, some of these questions also test how well you're able to express yourself, how well you're able to convey a point. So there may not be any hidden agenda. There may just be talking points to test how well you can communicate. But to a very observant manager, what did you like about your last job? Be careful and answer that with caution. You don't want to be over exuberant, but at the same time, you don't want to portray what is not. So you want to be honest. You want to be yourself. You want to look that interviewer in the eye and tell them. And if there was nothing that you liked from your last job, you're going to have trouble answering that question. So now would be a good time to think. Why are you applying for this role? Again, another opportunity to find out more about you and to see how you reason, how you think, what you think about the job, and if you're thinking too highly about the job, you know, like, oh, I'm applying to this job, you know, to get a cushy job that will keep me satisfied. Wrong answer. Okay, you know I'm joking. How would you describe yourself? How would your former colleagues describe you? And what else should we know about you? What motivates you? So again, we come back to this. What motivates you? Tell me a little bit about you. All of these questions. There may be nothing spooky. There may be nothing, you know, dubious about these questions. These questions may just be talking points of sorts, things that are going to help people know a little bit more about you. So my suggestion would be, you know, to probably rehearse, you know, these questions, you know, being able to think on your feet, being able to pass across whatever is in your head to the people interviewing you is really going to help. It's really going to help you. So let's get back to it. So next question is, discuss a time you had to make a tough decision. What are your hobbies? What is your passion? Do you have a pet peeve? Be careful with that one. Do you have a pet peeve? So again, you know, in interviews, you don't want to come across as being negative, okay? You don't want to come across using language that is so strong that it begins to get people concerned. It begins to get them concerned. Could Phil be someone that has an anger problem? You don't want them to start asking that kind of question, okay? So the way you answer questions, make sure it is within the normal reason of a display of passion, okay? You don't want to go off on the deep end and, you know, making people think that there's something up with you. So answer it with enough passion, you know, but don't go over the top. Describe your dream job. Be careful about that one. That may be a trap. It was a trap I fell into. I fell into this trap so miserably in a previous job interview. It's so laughable. It's ridiculous. So I went in there, and it's an admin job. And this is way back, you know, somewhere in North London somewhere. And we're sitting there, and the interviewer says, tell me about your dream job and what you would really like to do. And those who know me know that I'm a music junkie. I love music. I actually have 3 albums out. So back then, of course, I sold music like there was no tomorrow. It's so funny to me now. I told the interviewer, "Oh, I would love to have a job, as a music producer." Wrong answer. When I got back from the interview, my sister said, "Stupid, stupid boy, look at what you've done. You've blown your chance of getting a job. That was the wrong thing to tell them. How could you?" Well, she was exposed to the professional world a lot earlier than I was, and I blew that chance. It just made me laugh, looking back at how foolish that was. That was the wrong answer. You even knew that was the wrong answer. But I was really young back then. I had no experience in that regard. And I was still buzzing from my world as a music producer. And I sharing my passion. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So if you're asked, what is your dream job, folks? You gotta tailor it to today. You don't tailor it to where you want to be in the next 20 years. There was an executive who had worked as a VP in a well-known financial institution for a long, long time. But deep down in his heart, you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to push a hot dog stand. And that's what he wanted to do somewhere on the East Coast. Of course, when he finished his career as a VP, that's what he did. It's what made him happy. But that would have been the wrong interview question or answer to give to that question. It's so funny. But do you know a lot of people make that mistake? Now, while it may not be as drastic as the foolish mistake I made, you still want to tailor what is your dream job to where you want to be, because you're being hopeful that you can find yourself in that organization. And part of your being hopeful is to tailor your future to that organization. Because what happens if we employ you, Phil? So you're going to go off and be a music producer, and then you're going to have been here for 3 years, and now that position is empty. Immediate execution right there. Throw Phil off the interview. Of course I didn't get called back. And it's the same way people will judge you in any interview. If they ask you your dream job and you paint the picture, you want to be, the CEO of the organization, you can be sure that may not be a very good answer. Now, with that said, in some organizations, hearing that you want to be the CEO could actually be something that the interviewer wants to hear about, and may say, "Wow, this guy is hungry. Let's give him the job." So I'm careful not to give you a cookie cutter method, but within reason. Don't go off on a tangent talking about your 20-year, 25-year vision. That may be the very wrong thing to do. All right, next question. Why should we hire you? You got to sell yourself like there's no tomorrow on this one. And when I say sell yourself, I'm not saying go off to the loony bin end. I'm just saying sell yourself like you are really passionate, like you really know what you've got, like they should be doing themselves a favor by hiring you. Okay, you got to bring that passion, you got to bring that energy, you got to bring that zeal. Go there to sell yourself like you absolutely want the job. Discuss how you would set up an earned value management system. That's one of my trick questions when I interview project managers. It's not a very nice question, because if you don't know earned value, you're just going to have to tell the truth. And that's what I'm looking for you to tell the truth, to say, "Phil, I don't know about this," as opposed to trying to paint a picture when you've got no clue. That's why we've got expert judgment. So if you're asked a question and you don't know, just say, "I don't know." But this was a question I was asked in an interview as a project manager after the PMP exam, and I had to bring it. The good thing, like I said, I had studied about the firm, I knew a lot about the culture, and I was ready to speak to a lot of things. Describe how you would structure our records department, or something similar. Get ready to speak about it. What is your project management approach? That one, I've heard that one in so many interviews as a project manager. Your project management approach does not have to be a rigid cookie cutter sounding method, but your approach could be one of tailoring. You want to address tailoring, you want to address leadership, you want to address culture, you want to address mission, vision, and goal alignment to the organization you're in. You want people to know that whatever the project you are working on, you're going to be tailoring your project management approach. You're going to be aligning your project management approach to the organization's vision, mission, the goals of the organization, the overarching program or portfolio objectives, and so on. How do you organize your day? This is a trick. This is finding out if you're organized in the first place. If you don't organize your day, that's going to be hard for you to sell. Discuss your people management approach. So when you hear people management, again, that could be a trick. The underlying thing regarding relationships is not management, it's leadership. So if I was asked a question like that, you know what I would do? I would rephrase the question and I would say, I believe you're asking about my people leadership approach, how I lead, and then take it from there. You know, what kind of a leader are you? What do you know about leadership? So as a project manager, study a little bit about leadership. If you're going for management role, because it's really leadership, study a little bit more about leadership and try to identify what your leadership approach is. Are you a servant leader? Are you a transactional leader? Are you an autocratic leader? I hope not, but find what your leadership style is and that will help. I know there are times people need to be an autocratic leader, but those are very few and far between. Which project management tools are you proficient in? So project managers going for project management roles, this is where having a lot of arsenal in your gig bag can be extremely helpful. Understanding tools like MS Project, knowing them really well, you know, not just superficially, but really knowing them well. If you get a chance to learn any of those core project management tools that are being used, even simple old Excel, hey, those things go a long way. There's some jobs where Excel is like the holy grail. I mean, it's being used every single day. It's very needed. And that's why I tell people, take a course in this stuff. You know, try to get good, try to get better. And also in Microsoft Project and any of those other tools that you hear about. You know, these days, SAP is just huge. It's massive. You know, I know people whose job is just to train SAP. That shows you how massive it's become. So if you've got an opportunity to learn that, do it. How about things like Six Sigma? At least a green belt. You know, if you've got an opportunity to do that, do it. Black belt, even better. You know what I'm talking about? So these things, they really help you in the long run. And how comfortable are you with unknown technologies? Well, we know that technologies are left, right, and center these days. You know, it's almost hard to be a project manager without being comfortable with some form of technology these days in many companies. I'm not saying all, but in many companies, being IT savvy is becoming like, you know, the new standard, the new normal. So before you go for these interviews, if you haven't, you know, gotten familiar with the basic technologies that exist, you know, knowing Windows and how to move around Windows, it's definitely the beginning. But now it's getting into knowing how to use technologies that revolve around mobile devices and stuff like that. Not being able to program, but just being able to operate standard programs and, you know, standard things like that. It's becoming the new normal. And you actually see a lot of these software applications when they are designed for project managers these days. They're not just designed for desktop. They're also designed for, you know, the tablets, the iPad, the iPhone, the Android, to mention a few, you know. Oh, we shouldn't forget Bill, the Windows devices, the Windows. Hey, Bill, I'm thinking of you. I'm out here. I'm one of your fans. So really what they've done, in all of these firms, be it the Google boys, Tim Cook, Bill Gates, all of these firms, they've been very helpful to us. What would you do without Microsoft Project? Someone says, Phil, I don't want to hear that word ever again. What would you do without Excel? Okay, what would you do without Siri? What would you do without Google Docs? There's an organization I trained, their whole PMO, their entire PMO is based on Google Docs, and it's running extremely well. Extremely well. So we've got to be grateful for, what these folks have brought to the table. Truly remarkable what they've done. But that's it for my key sample warm-ups, and now's the time to ask any questions. I know I have kept you, but I am hoping that this will add some value somewhere to someone to help them in their project management search, to give them some form of motivation, some form of encouragement, because I've been there, folks. I've been there. I've been in the trenches of unemployment, and it stinks, folks. It's hard. It's a hard journey. A hard journey. Hey, thank you very much. I see a chat from Maya, and Maya says, hey, can you or anyone guide me as to where I can get past paper exams for CAPM? My exam is next week. Sigh. Oh, don't sigh, Maya. Don't worry. Look, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you some really important information. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but your exam next week, wait for this. Your CAPM exam next week, Maya, if anyone has not told you, let me be the first person to tell you this. In order to ace this exam, Maya, you want to know what you need to do? You ready for this? That's the answer. It's all in this book, Maya. It's all in this book. If you stick around, just give me a sign that you're still on, and I'm going to give you some power tips for your CAPM exam, okay? But it's all about this, right? But just stick around, and I'm going to give you some power tips for your CAPM exam next week. I've taken the CAPM exam twice. You take it every 5 years. Took it in 2011, killed it. Took it in 2016, killed it. So I've got a lot of experience with that exam. So just stay tuned. All right, I see one of my buddies, the comeback kid. K-Kid, Kenya, good to see you. It's been a long time. What's been going on? How have you been doing? I hope you're doing okay. K-Kid says, what about folks who are seasoned, but they are old? Oh dear. Kenya, are you kidding me? They're older than the interviewee. Better yet, I guess you mean older than the interviewer or vice versa. Better yet, what about mature workers whose resumes are not being selected? So here's my 2 cents. We got to keep up with the times, Kenya. You know this. We got to keep up with the times. I trained a well-known precious metals company in Boston roughly 6 years ago. And as I trained this company, I ended up meeting lots of individuals. One of them is a VP of engineering that I met. And the VP of engineering said, Phil, I'd like you to come in and train my people on the PMP. Anyway, that ended up not happening due to some change in direction. But when this particular VP got to the end of his tenure in this firm, he said, Phil, I want to take the PMP exam. I'm like, what? You want to take the PMP? He's like, yeah, I want to know what my people have been through. I want to know what my project managers went through. And I want to get back into the world of being a project manager again so that I will be able to compete in the marketplace, be marketable, and work as a consultant. I'm like, what? Dude, you're almost pushing 70. That's not what I told him. But seriously, it crossed my mind. Wow. you've got to be motivated to do this. When you don't have to, when you could chill out all day long on the lake at your beachfront property in Europe, you're telling me you want to take the PMP exam? Are you kidding me? No, Phil, I really am serious. Okay, let's put you on the learning management system. Put him on the LMS, go through the content, takes the mock exam, goes into the real exam in Switzerland a few months after retirement, slaughters the exam. So what am I trying to tell you, K-Kid? I'm trying to tell you that we got to keep up with whatever is in the marketplace. If the people are running laps around the block with PMP, we need to get the PMP badge and do likewise. We need to be as blended in as possible to the new normal of project management. Now, I was having an interesting chat with someone on social media, one of my colleagues, former registered education provider. And this individual said, Phil, I think the new normal is people are going to be running away from these certifications, looking at what the younger generation are gravitating towards these days, whatever that means. But I say that in jest, only to say that whatever the current trend is, we should be able to fit the multiple, the varieties that we see around us. If we need to have an all-inclusive, I'll just call it the project management ecumenical mindset, which means I can blend into this, that, or the other. That's the mindset we need to have. We need to be able to blend into agile today, blend into fully plan driven tomorrow, blend in wherever and however we need to be relevant, K-Kid. So you're in the right zone doing all of this. But let me address the first one that you asked. So you asked the question, what about folks who are seasoned? So age, honestly, age should not be a barrier. And if age is a barrier to anyone, it's unfortunate. They really need to examine themselves. For me, if I was interviewing someone, the overarching question is, can they bring the value to the table? And let me just go back, K-Kid, because I think we can really underscore these questions that I asked earlier on, the three overarching questions I asked, that anyone who is interviewing you is really going to be thinking. Let me see if I can get that slide back up. But, the question is, do you care about the firm? Do you care about the department? Can you convey that? And can you help the department? That is also something you want to bring up. Oh, I've gone too far. So let me advance again and show you these three questions that I covered. I believe it's after this. There we go. All right. Do you care about the department or the firm? So let me share this so you can see it. Do you care about the department or firm? Can you help us and how? And can we trust you and why? So K-Kid, if you can answer those questions and if you convey that, anyone who is, not considering a candidate older than them, significantly older, significantly younger, they're violating the code of ethics. And I don't even want to work for such a firm anyway. But I would also say blending in to the current project management landscape. I know people hate that. They're very antagonistic towards the PMI. They think the PMI is a ridiculous organization. Some people say, oh, the PMI, because the PMI is in cahoots with the government, that's why, all sorts of crazy stuff. But in my mind, it's what is current, what is happening in the marketplace, and are you staying current? If I'm going for a job where there are 10 PMPs and they are all as proficient as I am, I have a lesser likelihood to get that opportunity, like it or not, because they are as good as I am and they've got a certification on top. We got to remember that these people interviewing, they're human as well, and they're also going to be looking for the interest of the firm. Okay, if we put Phil on a resume next to this person is outshining Phil. So let's go with that person, that kind of thing. All right. K-Kid, you also said, how can I get past the ATS step? I need to get past the scanning tool. Oh dear, the scanning tool employers are using. So K-Kid, I find what you said in the beginning humorous, but I'm a bit sad seeing the sad face and unemployed. So K-Kid, it's about many things, like the things I've talked about so far. And I'm not sure when you asked that question. I wasn't taking a look at the chat then, but I'm hoping that some of these things that I've mentioned are going to help you. But I just hate seeing that. So the ATS step, it's all about the right job, Kenya. You got to be in the right job application. You need to be applying for the right opportunity. If you're not applying for the right opportunity, no matter what you do, you might find yourself hitting a brick wall, And that's why I would say, look at the opportunity. And if they so much as mention XYZ required and you don't have XYZ, it could be a tough sell. Okay. I usually advise people at a minimum, go for CAPM. If you cannot go for the PMP, go for the CAPM. The CAPM is not the ugly child next to the child shining bright. It's an equally formidable certification in the right hands. You put it in the right hands, I tell you, any of those CAPMs, they can sell themselves and the PMI like there's no tomorrow. They can sell what they do to a recruiter. I had one of such students who took the CAPM. She sold herself like there was no tomorrow to the recruiter, such that the recruiter ended up hiring her in a well-known government entity here in Arizona. At the end of the day, she ran that job so well that she ended up getting promoted and promoted. The 5 years of CAPM ended up running out, but she brought it. She delivered. She got promoted so highly. She got to the point she said, "Oh, Phil, my 5 years have run up. I need to either get PMP or take the CAPM again. And I really need to check in with her." So she got certified in 2010. Her CAPM expired in 2015. I wonder what she's doing now. I need to go check up on her. But all of that to say, it's not just about the certification. It's how formidable of a candidate you are, So, Kenya, I would say at least start off having some form of project management certification. And we can start working on this all over again. We can start working on this, building up to the point where you at least get the CAPM, have that on your resume, and see what it does. But I think we need to have some conversation outside of this to take it to the next level. So what did you mean by ATS, Kenya? If you're still on, can you chat in and tell me, what does ATS, what's that acronym? So I think, Kenya, you're not on anymore. Am I right? Kenya says, I do network and will continue to, but no, Kenya, that is the wrong attitude. You're not old. Old? What are you talking about? What's that? Age is a number, Kenya. Like I told you, pushing 70, this client of mine took the exam, killed the exam, and is on the prowl looking for opportunities. So don't feel you're too old. Hey, positive mental attitude. You want to be thinking, I'm not too old. I can take any of you youngsters around for 10 laps and I'm still on the track doing what I need to do. So don't have that mindset. The mindset you want to have is, I'm not old. There's a perfect opportunity waiting for me, and it's my job to find it and convince the employer that I can bring it, that I can deliver. So first of all, I think having that mental attitude first is key. And then doing the things I talked about, being active, don't be dormant, volunteer, and keep on bringing you. Don't be discouraged, Kenya. Seriously. There is a position that has your name written all over it. You just need to find it. I strongly believe that. I strongly believe someone as hardworking and smart as you has their job waiting, and I'll just say, in addition, if that opportunity is not coming full force real quick, we don't know. And that's why I say volunteer and stay engaged. But for you, Kenya, I'm giving you another level of thinking, another idea. Apart from being in the zone and, teaching what you know, begin working on your business. Begin working on a venture. Maybe it's a passion of yours. Maybe it's something you know, but it's something you can deliver. It's something you can bring, and it's something you can monetize. Don't wait for the opportunity to come to you. Go to it. Go to it. So the first 9 months I went without a job, I started a loops company. What is a loops company? Producing snippets of music, loops that I sold. And I did this for at least 5 years consistently. So while I went without a job, I reinvented myself by creating these loops and, starting an organization, a music firm that sold these loops on the web. And that was before the industry became saturated. Shortly after I started doing that, lots of other people came in and the industry became saturated. And I didn't keep up because I was already gainfully employed in so many organizations, so it ended up dwindling and coming to a halt. But I did that as a way of going to an opportunity with what I had. And then after that, my next round of 9 months without work, I decided to go full force into adding value to people by sharing what I could, about project management. And that's where I am today. My second bout of 9 months without work brought me to where I am right this moment. Like I said, the organization that I interviewed with, they're not far from here, but that job ended up going away when the economy tanked. And as usual, I said, what am I going to do? What can I do? All right, I'm going to start teaching people what I know, project management, Microsoft Project. In fact, I built a full curriculum, several hours long, of Microsoft Project during that downtime. And I never ended up selling it. I ended up pretty much giving it away to students and, but one thing I'll say is you need to go to where the opportunity is. So in addition to looking for jobs and volunteering and doing all this stuff I said, if you are entrepreneurial, think about what you could do, how you can monetize what you have. We have a student of ours, and some of you on the channel may have seen my shout out to that student, Yinka, who has a company that makes banana bread. Monetize what you have. If the opportunity isn't coming full force, don't give up on, the chance to monetize what you have. It could be a hobby, it could be anything, all right? But do it with an intent to show yourself that you are indeed a champion. I truly believe that, Kenya. I truly believe that. So continue networking. You're doing the right thing. Continue bringing it, and don't give up. Don't give up. So Maya, are you still on the call? Because if you are still on the call, I am going to give you some tips for your CAP M. If you are not on the call, however, I'm wondering if it would add value to anyone on the call to know about the CAPM exam, because we're talking about employment in general. So, Maya, are you on the call right now? I am going to probably have to do this in a separate video if you're not on the call, because I really want to add value to people. Okay, let me give it the benefit of the doubt. Let me say Maya is driving. Maya, your exam is going to be based on this book. You need to know this book inside out. What you do need to know, and I know you've got a few days, I would say focus on knowing all of the processes cold, ice cold, knowing all of the process groups, knowing all of the knowledge areas, and knowing all of the processes. And then go to the next level. Know all the components of your project management plan, all the components of your project documents, and then know the network of key outputs, such as deliverables becoming verified deliverables, becoming accepted. You'll be amazed. That stuff is going to be on your exam. Then the network of activities of WPD becoming WPI, becoming WPR, and where those go. That's important. Also knowing at a high level the sacred cows of the PMI when it comes to the tools and techniques. So I just say this very quickly. Page 686. Maya, if you're listening, page 686, 687, 688, all the way to page 694, Maya. You see, those pages contain some invaluable pointers to tools and techniques that you need to know for your exam. And I would say any of those tools and techniques that you see in only one process, make sure you know those extremely well, okay? So let's go to page 694 of the PMBOK guide, okay? 694, taking a look at the first three, okay? Schedule compression, only used in two processes. Schedule network analysis, used in one process. Source selection analysis, used in one process. For example, if I were you, things like that only appear once, I would know them as cold as possible. And pretty much everything on page 694 is used only in one or two places. But as you begin to go backwards, like to page 692, like expert judgment, that's used in a ton of places. So anyway, that's the way I would think if I was taking the CAPM next week. I would make sure I know the PMBOK guide really, really, really well. Okay, are there any other questions or concerns or anything I can help you out with? Because the truth about it is I'm here to add value. This friend of mine going through a tough time, I feel really bad, and I wish there was something I could do beyond this, but I'm hoping this goes some distance in helping that individual as they look for their next employment. So in the absence of questions, folks, I want to say a big thank you to you for joining me. Don't forget to check out those links, especially the link that explains about job searches, job seekers motivation, I call it. All right. So I know that there sometimes is a delay. There's some sort of lag when it comes to these streaming events, But if there are any questions after the fact, maybe you started listening halfway, and you don't know I'm about to jump off, feel free to send in a question afterwards, all right? So thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Maya, all the best on your CAPM. K-Kid, hey, keep your head up. Bring it. I believe in you. I believe you can do these things. I'm not moved by age or any other, qualifier that may seem befitting from your viewpoint. I want to tell you that those are all lies that many a time our mind tells us. That's just the truth. You need to tell yourself, I am beyond any of these so-called imaginary limitations. You can do anything you put your mind to. You just have to put your mind to it. Keep on. It doesn't matter if it takes a day or two or three or longer, but remaining consistent is definitely a good response to this condition. And like I said, I truly believe you can bring it. And shoot me an email and let's see how we can, realign our focus, get on the wagon, share some information with me, what you're looking for, what you've applied to, and I'll be very happy to give you some additional pointers. Okay? Thank you all very much, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again soon. Bye for now.